Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
Wait a minute, something's happening. Some shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of After Hours AM Deeper Cuts. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Greg Bach, and as always, tonight we have a great show for you. Before we jump into everything, we are having Gary Parker on the show. Gary Parker is, well, he is the man responsible for the grassroots effort to revitalize the Great Pyramid and, of course, the Sphinx, but along the way, his story takes a drastic turn, and we'll be talking with Gary at the top of, or actually at the bottom of this hour. But until then, I know that, Greg, you have been a man of the people lately, and you did something very, very cool, very awesome on Facebook. Just, what was that, Saturday or Sunday? I can't remember anymore. You actually did a live Ghost Box session with a lot of people tuning in, and I know you were just talking off air about doing more of them. So fill everyone in on what you're doing.
So it's been a while since I've done a spirit box session. It's been actually quite some time, and I don't know about you, Joel, but when you do something and it's so passionate about it, you really want to keep doing it, and you don't have the outlet to do it, you kind of start jonesing for it, don't you? You just kind of like, how do I do this? How do I go out and investigate? How do I?
Yeah, you start to miss it. It becomes a part of you in a lot of ways, and then when you're not doing it, you start really missing it, and so I get you there.
Yeah, and so, I'm one of those people. Anyone who knows me knows that if I'm not doing something, I'm going to find a way to do it. And I just decided Saturday night, just like I was talking to a couple friends, and I said, I think I'm going to do a spirit box session, and then started talking with them about, what do you think about doing like a Facebook Live, which I've never done anything like that before. Mm-hmm. And so I set it up, and I kind of staged the area in the sense of like not making it look like the hellhole that I live in, but in fact something that you would actually find human beings in. And so he staged the first night, and we had a really healthy group of people who joined in, and we did a spirit box session in St. Michael. And what happened was we didn't get a ton of responses. It was okay. It was fine. But I kind of got the itch. So Sunday, I started telling my friends again, I'm going to do another one tonight. I'm going to do one and just see what happens. We're going to move to an area that I always get a lot of feeling around and just kind of feel and sense stuff. So I set it up there, and we did it at 9 p.m. on Sunday night. And the responses were off the hook in the sense that there was a lot of them, a lot of activity. We were picking up names. We were picking up a lot of different vibes and stuff. And while I'm doing the Facebook Live stuff, I have another recorder, as I would on an investigation, that I'm recording just the spirit box. So then I can go back and I can listen to the spirit box, basically by itself. So I can pick up all those nuances, because as you know, going through the radio frequencies, there's a lot of like under chatter to a lot of being said.
I just had a light bulb over my radio head here. Why don't you give me that recording and I'll make an MP3 out of it? So people that do miss it, or people that are very interested in Spirit Box, how it works, they could download it and take a listen for themselves if they miss the live broadcast.
I might do that. It is currently available on Facebook as the video. What I had also thought to do, if I can find the time, is go through the recording and pull out stuff and kind of do an edited down version of what we saw, but with better audio, and then maybe some titles that what I believe is being said through some of these areas. And I had a lot of people who were just like, hey, did you catch that? Did you hear that? I heard this. I heard that. Yeah. A couple people were like, check your screen at this time because something moved across it. And
interesting.
Yeah. It was, and I looked down at my screen at one point because I wasn't always looking at my screen, and like a white flash moved from left to right.
Ooh, how'd that make you feel? And again, you're doing this in your home.
Yes, and that's the one thing I've always told people is to not do it in their home.
Well,
But unfortunately, and this is where, like I said, when I find myself not being able to do what I want to do, I'm going to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm hoping, and I'm working with a couple of friends, that maybe we can find places that are outside of that area to different places, and kind of, because what I'd love to do is do a weekly live Spirit Box session.
Yeah, that'd be very cool. Now, if there's people listening going, hey, I got a great location here in the Midwest, Greg. I'd love to have you come to it and do one of these. How can they get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me. Probably the best way is, and I've been getting a lot of people reaching out to me on Facebook and my personal page, basically friending me and all that stuff. Certainly can do that. Send me a message. Obviously, you can leave a message on the After Hours radio page and talk to us that way, or you can go to Minnesota Ghost Box. We have a Facebook page too that has that I'm posting all the information also.
So you're looking at doing another one, possibly this weekend.
Yep, I'm hoping to do one Sunday.
Would it be at the same time? 9
yes,
o'clock?
It would. It would be at 9 p.m. because I actually, when we finished up the session on Sunday, I asked everyone who was listening, like, should I do this again? And everyone's like, yes, please. I'm like, well, what works better, Saturday or Sunday? And everyone, really, the majority is like Sunday is the best day. So I think 9 p.m. on Sunday was great, and I think that's the direction I'm going to go, at least for this coming Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out again this Sunday. If you are listening late here, when you listen to podcast form, the date is Tuesday, November 14th. So this Sunday, which would end up becoming, if I can think in my head and do really, really quick math.
It's the 19th, isn't it?
Yep, would be the 19th. This 19th, 9 o'clock, Facebook at the After Hours AM page, or possibly the Ghost Box page, either or. Greg will have a notification, both of those pages, either way, to direct you where to go. But you can have an opportunity to watch something that a lot of people don't get to watch, surprisingly enough. And that is a live Ghost Box session, 100% live. You don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen. So it's actually an opportunity if you've ever had an interest in learning how to do it, too. Greg is truly one of the masters.
Well, thank you. I mean, it part of it, too, is honestly the people who tuned in, because it takes everybody's energy, I believe, to get any kind of responses. And I'm helping, trying to be the conduit. And what we end up getting is a lot of responses that were geared, I think, towards people who were actually paying attention through Facebook. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the experiment, too, is like, can you name somebody who is watching through Facebook? Can you name that one of those people? And I think Saturday night we got a name, and then Sunday we asked, can you name yourself if you're a loved one to somebody watching this through this feed? And we got a name. So that's the experiment, isn't it? All these ways of trying to see if we're getting a connection at all.
Sure. I think it's fascinating stuff. And, definitely worth your time. Check it out. I know I'm going to try to watch. I don't always have the time. Of course, you met my small minions I call children.
Absolutely, yes.
And so, of course, but I watched the video, and it was very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. Again, this Sunday, 9 p.m., over there at Facebook, After Hours AM fan page, or rather, actually, it's our group. We have a very dedicated group of people that hang out there, that love us, and we love them. So come join that community. Join the community and you won't miss a thing that Greg is doing because he'll always post there, let everyone know what's going on, both with the live Ghost Box sessions and Minnesota Ghost Box, the TV show. So either way, you're covered.
That's right. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, please check it out. If you have any questions, just reach out to us and we can answer it.
Greg, to jump into news here for a second, right now in Tampa, Florida, there is a serial killer on the loose. Police escorted children to school Monday. City bus changed its usual routes as the neighborhood really is in terror of this serial killer on the loose. Nobody knows who it is. They got some grainy Bigfoot type video, but that's about all we have is that extremely grainy video from a distance. In the last 2 weeks, 3 people have been shot to death within 1 mile radius of the normally quiet Tampa Bay. What is that called? Seminole. Yeah, Seminole.
Okay, yeah.
Seminole Heights. Sorry about that. Neighborhood police believe the shooters are linked by proximity and time frame. So, that being said, there is a kind of a timely news story that you want to talk about on the paranormal front, and it really kind of grabbed me right away when you mentioned it. 10 haunted houses caused by American serial killers.
Absolutely. Haunted houses are a staple of the American ghost story. Whether they're whimsical ghost stories playing mischievous pranks like the beginning of Poltergeist, or malicious spirits intent on striking fear and causing bodily harm like the end of Poltergeist. It's a great group of examples there, all in one film, I guess. Haunted houses have seeped their way into the lexicon, usually brought in by violent death. These possessed buildings will frighten you, be it through their creepy murders or the spirits that spawn from them. These are the 10 haunted houses that were spawned by violent deaths. So light reading for everybody.
Pretty light here. So what's the first one here?
Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. Really? The infamous cannibal committed most of his crimes at the modern Oxford apartment complex where he resided. He lured his victims there with the promise of money for sexual favors. Dahmer would then drug them, dismember them, and dump their bodies in a 57-gallon drum filled with acid. Hope he got the order right.
Yeah.
Later, he would dig out their bones to eat, which brings new meaning to bone broth.
Oh, God.
2 separate victims managed to escape on 2 different occasions, which led to Dahmer's arrest. The complex was bought and then demolished out of respect for the dead. However, no one has lived there since due to the bad vibes from the dead souls emanating from the property. Now, Joel, I've been there.
You have? I've never been to that property.
Yep, I've been there. I had a friend who lived out in Milwaukee and drove us past there, drove us right by there, and it's gross, right? I mean, that's all there is
the
to
only
it.
serial killer I've ever met in person was the BTK killer, and that was by pure accident in Kansas. And that was a creepy story all on its own. Just something in my bones said, yeah, that guy's bad. And so I steered clear of him. Just that inherent fear I think that we all have, that self-preservation kicks in, like, spidey sense going off. This dude is not good. And so I veered the other way. So what's next on the list?
We have next the Hex Murder House. And so back in 1928, John Blymeyer was having a fit of bad luck. A local witch by the name of Nellie Knoll told John that his misfortune was all due to a local recluse by the name of Nelson Rhymeyer. Despite the fact that both men were practitioners of magic, Blymeyer took Knoll at her word and decided to deal with Rhymeyer on a more permanent basis. First, Blymeyer burned Rymeyer's book of spells, then buried a lock of his hair. Then, with the help of 2 teenagers, John Curry, who was 14, and Wilbur Hess, who was 18, helped Blymeyer beat Niemeyer to death, and then set his corpse on fire to break the spell.
My God! Wow.
And somehow, in the story, his name changes from Raymeyer to Niemeyer.
I read that. The story changed. That's how evil he was.
Is that part of the magic?
He could morph names and apply.
I think his name is Niemeyer, and the story takes place on Raymeyer Hollow Road. So maybe that's where the confusion is.
Okay, that very well could be. So not only does he bury his book and his hair, or burn his book, bury his hair, and then beat him to death, I would have thought the beating to death would have been sufficing, but no, he went whole hog.
Well, you're not a witch, are you? So
No,
you wouldn't
no, I'm
know
not. I
that
have
you have
no
to burn
idea.
these people.
That is true. I've heard that. I heard something about floating in ponds too, but that's a whole nother story.
Niemeyer's wife and daughter were not exposed to this horrific act as they lived on a different farm.
Oh.
It is said that the house is haunted to this day. There are historical tours of the property, including burn marks where they disposed of the body. Ooh.
Wow, that is awfully morbid and fascinating all at the same time.
Right. No kidding, right?
Yeah.
It's like feeling like Clarissa Cole should be reading these stories, to be honest.
Right, and that's tomorrow night. It's True Crime with Clarissa Cole, myself, and Mr. Eric Olson. And normally this is the stuff we cover, but it's hauntings caused by, and that is so interesting.
Yeah. So up next we have John Wayne Gacy's house.
Good old
John
Johnny.
Wayne, what's that?
Good old Johnny.
John Wayne Gacy is one of the most infamous modern serial killers in American history. He killed 29 victims, often disguised as a clown, and hid them in his crawl space garage and backyard. One day in 1978, Gacy's wife noticed an odd smell, but Gacy chalked it up to dead mice in the ventilation system.
Sure.
He was soon
Good
arrested.
old
Yeah,
gag.
I mean, it smells the same, I'm sure. He was soon arrested, and police dug up the bodies, which caused considerable destruction to the house. Multiplied by the harsh winter of 78, the house was eventually torn to the ground. Some people believe the grounds to be haunted with land lying barren despite the amount of fertilizer that was in it. New owners have built a new house, changed the address to avoid the unwanted attention from depraved fans or otherwise.
Okay, would you live there at all in that property?
Yeah, I would live there. There's other places I would much rather not live, to be honest.
Okay.
How about you?
I don't know. Because we hear time and time again that the earth can become tainted, that the earth itself becomes active and haunted. And so I just don't know if I evidently in that area, land must come at a very high premium. Because I'm surprised it didn't turn into a parking lot, to be honest with you, that particular area.
Well, and you got to wonder, too, about some of these places, if you heard the stone tape theory, whether or not, something so horrific happens that it gets implanted onto, like, walls and stuff and gets replayed it causes energy. And you got to wonder if there's some sort of version of that happening at these places, It may not be haunted per se, but it might be residual energy also.
And a lot of it, too, is the crime that happened.
Yep.
Now, if you knew nothing about that crime, you walked into that house, you probably wouldn't think twice about it.
It depends, right? I mean, it depends on a couple different things. I mean, before I built the house that I'm in now, we went to a house in Andover. I'll remember this. I walked in, and the vibes of that place were
just dark, huh?
off the charts.
Oof.
Off the charts, yeah.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of those places where I've looked at homes as well, where you're walking, you're like, oh, I'm not living there. Woo!
Right.
That kind of thing where you just know you're not wanted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
No, yeah. So there's that. The next up to talk about is the Kreischer Mansion. Balthasar Kreischer was a German businessman who had two identical houses built in 1885 over the course of a decade. The houses were built for his sons, who both died, one from suicide and one from one of the houses burning down.
Wow.
The house that still stood vacant until it was purchased and turned into a restaurant, Mob Front, then left vacant again under the watchful eye of Marine Joseph Young. Young was hired to kill Robert McKelvey by the Bonanno crime family. He took out his task by strangling, stabbing, drowning McKelvey before dismembering and burning the body, once again, in the furnace of the grounds of the mansion. Rumors speculate various hauntings by the Kreishers, including a ghost woman being seen in the windows. Why would it be them doing that? Why would they be the ones haunting when clearly we're talking about McKelvey, who was killed there?
Yeah, you would have thought that McKelvey would be haunting, but they don't mention that in the story. They're talking about the lady that carried or helped carry it out.
Yeah.
Haunting the area, unless it's through guilt, and that's why she remains. And, maybe McKelvey went to the other side with a clean slate, and they're happy. Whereas she's trapped in limbo for doing what she's done.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting, and all these are all urban legends, right? In the sense that they're haunted or whatnot. Who knows what some of these are really like? Manson family murder house. The estate is the site of the Manson family murders. We know how that story.
I want to say we interviewed the guy that owns that place at one point, and he claims it's very haunted.
You're not talking about David Oman, though, are you?
I do believe I am. I do. It's been years. It's been years. So
he doesn't own the house. Actually, his place was next to the was it, whose house was it? But it wasn't at the same property. It was just like up the road from it. Yeah. And he believes that the Sharon Tate's ghost is there.
Yeah, I think Trent Reznor at one time occupied that house, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did.
From Nine Inch Nails. Okay, that's the same house then. Not, I think we talked to the other person you're referring to. For some reason, I thought we talked to the person that owned this house, but no, I think you're right. We did talk with the other person. My mistake, guys.
Well, I mean, because he's the only one that really kind of, if you will, broadcast out that.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to make a name for himself on that.
Yeah, that's pretty much all that it is. It's there's a little bit of interest there, but a whole lot of
hogwash.
Nothing. Yeah, no, I think so. A lot of hot air, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. So next on the list is a pretty infamous one.
It's the Amityville house, originally built in the 1920s by John Monahan. It was the DeFeo family is the reason that the house makes our first list. Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed his parents and 4 siblings under the influence of a dark presence. A year later, the Lutz family moved in and discovered that the DeFeo family hadn't really moved out yet. While Father Mancuso was blessing the house, he heard demonic voices. Mrs. Lutz felt a ghostly embrace, and Mr. Lutz found a secret room in the basement, while their daughter Jody found a demonic pig hanging around. Strange odors, weird slime, the cloven footprints of haunted the Lutz in their 28-day stay in the house. Famous demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren have reportedly taken a picture of a demon boy while at the house, and I don't care if that picture is real or fake. That thing is
creepy.
Freaky. That picture is ridiculous.
Someone sent me a poster one time of that in a frame and everything. Like, hey, put this up.
You.
Put this up in your studio. It was one of the listeners. I said, no, I'm good. I am good. I do not want that picture, fake, real, or otherwise. And just creepy. And as far as the Lutz, I mean, talk about hot button story. There's the believers, the non-believers, and there's people that believe that he was part of a bad land deal and he couldn't afford his house, so he made a story up. So,
just real fast, I had a friend who just moved in a house over by St. Croix River, and it's an older house. And when they're going through it, actually, I think it wasn't his house. It was somebody else's house that he knew in that neighborhood. They found a room that no one knew about.
Well, that was not uncommon. Old homes, though, older homes. Yeah. I'm talking about. I'm assuming a lot of times now. My house had a hidden room. Mm-hmm. And I went in it, and it's just a tiny little room.
That's how you found me.
Well, exactly. I found Greg. I'm like, who are you? You said, well, I'm Greg Bakken. Who the hell are you? And I said, well, I bought the house. Get out, Greg. No, it was...
I've been living here for 43 years.
Exactly. I'm original of the damn house. What are you talking about? Actually, it was for insulation purposes, a cold zone, to give a buffer. Okay. And so that's exactly why that one existed. But other rooms are not so innocent. Sometimes people do find creepy stuff in old houses.
We move on to the Lizzie Borden house, and I was going to ask you, what's the possibility of iHeartRadio giving us a little bit of fun so that we can get a group of people together and go and spearhead a tour out there, because that's a place on my to-do list. I want to go to the Lizzie Borden house, and I want to do it soon.
That would be super cool. We'll work on that, but I can tell you right now, iHeartRadio, you're probably going to say no to us, but we'll try anyway, iHeartRadio. So why don't you give us some money there, iHeartRadio? So I tried right there. That was my pitch right there.
And here's the thing.
Yeah, well,
they're at the Lizzie Borden house, and they got it all wrong. The whole thing is there is the creepy undertones of what happened in that house that caused Lizzie Borden to do what she did.
And that, it's also in the Bridgewater Triangle.
Allegedly.
Bridgewater Triangle's right there.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be called Freetown, which is a whole nother thing before they turned into Fall River. And there's a whole story about the town itself that would lend itself to creepy things. So, you know, so what's next here? I know we only got about 5 minutes left with a lot of houses, so you might want to cherry pick the more notables on the list, if you would.
We just have 3 left.
Oh,
We're
good deal. Good deal.
The Cleveland Strangler Murder House, that is in Cleveland, Ohio, actually. And basically, Anthony Sowell was released in 2005 after serving 15 years for rape and assault of many women, including his 11-year-old niece. Despite this, no one suspected him of murder. The stretch that lingered in his house was explained as his mother or local the stench, that lingered in his house was explained as his mother or local sausage factory. Everyone believed him. After all, he was a decorated member of the Marine Corps.
Sure, why would he lie?
Yeah, in 2009, he was arrested for attempted rape again, and when police searched his house, they found the bodies of almost half a dozen African-American women in his home. Out of respect for the victims, the house was demolished, presumably letting his victims be at peace. Sure. And we're sure that the stench is still the local sausage plant. The guy who wrote this is a comedian.
He tries to be, anyway. The next one is one that's actually near us, is Villisca, Axe Murder House, man.
And you know, I mean, this is such an interesting place, and you've been there. I've been there. The whole thing basically is 8 people were murdered by an axe. We don't know if it's 1 or 2 people. No one's ever found the murderer or murderers. Yeah. And there's been a lot of people were subject to being possible.
Sure, there's a lot of list of suspects.
People. A lot of suspects on this.
Yeah.
And I can say firsthand, and I'd be interested to know anyone else who's been out there who's listening, as far as I'm concerned, that place really does live up to its expectation by its reputation.
Oh, it's creepy as hell. It is creepy as hell. It's tiny as well. Yeah. So, you know, creepy as hell and tiny as well. I'm gonna start a song. No, it's just tiny. It's cramped space. I believe whoever murdered them, knew the floor plan, knew where they went or where they didn't go in the home. Because how could you hide in such a tiny spot without anyone finding you? Get it?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's just my theory. A lot of people have other theories. So there's also a theory that maybe somebody that knew the family hired a drifter to do the dirty work. And then once he did it, they paid him and he skipped town.
Yeah. No, it's extremely, extremely incredible, the whole story. And when people say he hid in the attic, please note, if you don't know this, the attic is on the same floor as the parents' and children's bedroom.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's just tiny. It's just a tiny, tiny little house. Okay, what's number 1 or last one, at least, on the list?
Last one is Gardette Laprate House. The house began as a vacation home in the French Quarter for Louisiana Jean Laprate in the 1830s. Laprate rented and built the building to a young Turk known as the Sultan, who would have lavish parties with a harem, eunuchs, and compatriots with wild music and incense. Yeah. One day, a passerby noticed blood seeping out of the door. He called the police, and when they arrived, the entire party had been slain, with the Sultan being buried alive in the backyard. It's still unsolved, Joel.
Wow, the Sultan got killed? Wow, he's the Sultan.
Sultan is dead.
He's the Sultan, though. He's the Sultan of swing. And what you're going to do is you're going to go in there and you're going to murder the poor man?
Visitors of the property report ghostly faces staring at them in the stairwell and hear regular shouting and weeping.
Wow, man.
Well, I hear weeping here, but it's normally me. So.
I was going to say, are they talking about my love life, being married, or are they talking about
just life decisions?
Yeah, exactly. Is that ghosts of decisions past? It's really crying? I don't know. But one thing we do know is we have to run a break. We come back. We're going to have Gary Parker on. And the story that he's going to unravel for us is pretty interesting. I must say, I listened to a bunch of interviews with him on it and read a bunch of stuff about it. I couldn't believe my eyes what I was looking at. So we have him come on right after this break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If pop culture is to be believed, roughly 40% of all people are actually vampires, or dating one. Well, undead or not, you can always save on a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6, even if you sleep during the day because direct sunlight turns you into a pile of sparkly coffee grounds. Speaking of which, we have free coffee every morning. You day sleepers may want to go for the decaf. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
Hi, I'm Kip Parker.
And I'm Charlie Parker.
And we're the Parker Brothers. Hey, Charlie, what's missing from our game catalog?
I don't know, Kip. Tell me.
Well, you can't talk to the dead.
You sure as hell can.
That's why we got this brand new game called Ouija.
Ouija? Well, break that down for me.
Well, it's Wii because you're having a great time, and G, it's because G, aren't you having a blast because you're having a good time with the Wii.
It looks like it smelled like a Chinaman got caught in there.
Don't question it.
Well, Ouija, Kip, tell me about it.
Well, inside the package comes a flat board with all the letters of the alphabet, numbers from 0 to 9, and a yes-no written out by itself.
Well, that sounds like a lot of stuff going on.
That's got a lot of stuff going on indeed, Charlie. It also comes with this planchette which hovers over the letters the dead are trying to tell you.
Well, how does that work, Chip?
Well, you ask the question, and then the dead move your hands in the direction of the answers.
That sounds like a heck of a way to find Grandpa's slave money.
Turns out it was in the attic. But the questions don't have to be as serious as slavery. You can also find out if Sally's got a crush on you. The dead like to answer all sorts of trivial questions.
Feels like they'd have better things to do with their time, Kip.
No, lost souls are lost forever, and they're really glad to help.
Well, gee, Kip, can't you just get any sort of board with numbers and letters and talk to the dead?
The dead prefer quality like anybody else. Quality you can only find at Parker & Parker.
The Ouija board, brought to you by the Parker Brothers, available in both white and colored walworts. Separate but equal savings.
Author Steve Asher brings us Hauntings of Trilogy. Steve's first book, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary. This first installment of the trilogy tells us the tale of the Kentucky State Penitentiary and why it's so haunted. With every turn of the page will be something new and terrifying. Pick up Steve's new book, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and all better bookstores everywhere.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the Wacky Waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the Wacky Waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
You're dead! I saw you die! I was faking. I used ninja focus to slow my heart rate down. What are you doing? I'm burying you. I'm alive! I'm alive! You're waking the neighbors! No. Shut up! No! Now I'm gonna play your drum set.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Hey, welcome back to After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Greg Bakken, and tonight we got a great guest on tap, Greg. And
yes, we do.
His name is Gary Parker. And Gary's story is unlike any other I think I've ever heard. And I've been in radio a long time. But his story is it's almost like the gods are smiling down on him to make his life efforts come true. Gary's a man on the mission. He really is. And he started out this journey, really wanted to do some good. He really wanted to restore the pyramid, the Great Pyramid in Giza, and of course, the Sphinx. Who wouldn't want to do that? Who would not want to do that? But along the way, he discovers a few things about that area and meets a few people along the way that are interested in helping this project from some very unlikely sources. Stuff you would never believe would ever happen. With no further ado, Gary Parker, guys. Gary, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Joe. Great, man. Hey, Greg. Thanks, guys, for having me on. This is awesome.
No, not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. Now, I guess we should really start at the top and find out who you are before we move on to other stuff.
Well, I'm pretty much nobody. I'm not that interesting. That my life got interesting a little over 2 years ago, but other than that, I was pretty boring. The one fun thing though that I did live in Los Angeles for 35 years, and I got into real estate, which wasn't fun, but it made some money. But I was lucky enough to get together with a lady by the name of Marjorie Rose, and we wrote a couple of scripts that got bought in Hollywood. So we had one movie made. It wasn't that good, but it did get made, and we got paid, and it was nice. It was actually called Thank Heaven and starred Jenny McCarthy. But then we sold a couple other scripts to Disney and to Lionsgate. So yes, that was fun. That was very fun. But other than that, guys, I'm pretty boring. Other than what I'm going to tell you the story.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say you're not very boring. You say you're boring, and I find that fascinating. I don't have the talent to write a movie script.
Well, neither do I. My writing partner had all the talent. I was like the salesman, and I would come up with the big ideas.
So
here's one other thing. We actually did work. We worked with George Romero. You've heard of him, right? The horror director.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just passed away, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He was a schmuck. He was a total schmuck. He was an alcoholic. He was a pain, and he cost us an $8 million deal. But the cool thing was the script that he screwed us on. He actually Lionsgate bought it, so I was happy about that.
Well, that's good. It all worked out in the end because I interviewed George a few times, and he was a tough guy. Say the least.
I wanted to punch him in the face, but he was like 6'7".
Yeah.
I couldn't jump up that high. I'm only 5'9".
Yeah.
But you know what, though? I'm sure when he wasn't drunk, he was a nice guy, but I didn't know him other than him being drunk. So.
Well, and
he did cost us a movie deal.
I have
that's
heard
a whole
that.
Other story.
That's a whole nother show all unto itself. But now, what made you, self-described as being a boring guy, want to take on such a big project like restoring the Sphinx and the pyramid?
Well, guys, I always come up with these big ideas, like for movie ideas, and I always try to come up with the biggest ideas I can. And I thought of it as a movie at first. I said, wouldn't it be cool if somebody, because I was looking at some show like Ancient Aliens or something, and I saw the pyramid and Sphinx, and I said, they look like they're falling apart. We should put some money together and restore these things. And I thought, wow, that's a great idea. So I called a couple of Hollywood friends, and I said, and like you said, I think I told you at the beginning of the show, I have built homes and stuff in Los Angeles, so I know a little bit about construction.
No, actually, let's go into that. You didn't mention that at all. So you are also a realtor, or not a realtor, but you developer.
A developer, yeah. When I say developer, I just bought a couple houses. I built a couple condos, and I was involved in a couple apartment complexes. But nothing real big. But just it's tough. It's hard to get permits. In Los Angeles. It's very, very tough. Earthquake codes and everything. But I know how to put a deal together, and I know how to go to banks for money.
Sure.
So what happens is I'm sitting around, and like I said, I thought, how could I help world peace? Even before when I thought about the Sphinx, my first initial, the nucleus of the whole idea was world peace. And then I thought, well, hey, what if we the whole world gets together and restore the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx? And when I say restore them, I don't mean take them apart and put them in working condition. I mean just make them look nicer. Put some of that ancient stucco back on them. Make them look nice. And Egypt can't afford to do it because they're $284 billion in debt, and they have rolling blackouts throughout Cairo. So I said, I could do a global crowdfunding deal where we could raise like $7 billion. It would take, say anywhere from 10 to 12 years to restore, and it would be a whole thing where the whole world chips in to do it. So I thought that would be pretty kind of cool, how just the whole idea of bringing the world together and maybe not thinking about.
So, okay, and I have to ask, how do you wake up one morning and you're like, okay, what do I want to do today? I'm going to think about world peace. I'm going to think about how I'm going to solve, get the world together. How do you, I don't want to go deep into the trenches here, but to me it's very interesting that you're like, I'm just sitting around one day thinking about how I'm going to solve the world peace problem, and this is what I'm going to do. How do you even get there even?
Well, like I said, I always try to think of big ideas. Like the movie that we had made, it was a movie called Thank Heaven, and it was about God sneaks out of heaven to play golf in Beverly Hills. He gets hit in the head with a golf ball, and he has amnesia. So those are kind of real big ideas. So I always try to think as big as possible. And for some reason it popped in my mind, I guess because of so much news, it's all about nuclear war and bombing and who hates who, and everybody hates everybody, and kids are starving. And I thought, God, Gary, you have a good imagination. Why don't you come up with something to help the world, And for some reason, guys, that popped into my head. I'm sure I was watching Ancient Aliens or something, and I saw the pyramids, and I think, what if we can restore those things? It would be great. Doesn't it sound good?
It sounds great to me.
Yeah.
I'd be down with giving you a few bucks to help you, but
sure.
What
I did,
I'm
sorry.
I was gonna say, but you need more than just a few bucks to do that. There's a lot of money involved in doing that.
I ballparked it at around $7 billion, and I needed some startup money. So what I did was I went to a couple, I figured I needed between $5 and $10 million to get going.
Okay.
Which is not that bad considering the amount that you totally need to raise.
There you go. So what happened?
Honestly.
No. And so what I did was I went to a couple movie producer friends of mine, and I asked them, I said, do you have any billionaires' contact information? And because I figured in my head, billionaires think they're like pharaohs anyway. Mm-hmm. So they would want to be associated with the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. That'd be awesome to have your name associated with them throughout eternity. Yeah. So what happens is one buddy of mine gave me Sir Richard Branson's email address, and the other one gave me Elon Musk's email address. So I figured, what the heck? And they said, Gary, whatever you do, don't tell them where you got the email. I said,
they don't want to die. Yeah, don't tell them.
Yeah, but they don't want to lose his. If they invest in a project of his, they don't want them to get pissed off.
Yeah,
right.
So anyway, I shoot Sir Richard Branson and Elon Musk an email, and guys, I figured they'd get back to me like in a month or so because they're always so busy and everything. And the heading was "Restore World Peace, Restore the Great Pyramid and Sphinx." That was the heading, and I wrote a little paragraph of who I was and what I wanted to do with the world and stuff. Guys, the next morning, like 7:30 in the morning, I get an email from Sir Richard Branson. He says, Gary, I don't know how you got my email, but I love this idea and I want to be part of it. And I couldn't believe it, guys. I freaked out. I said, this is so awesome. Like the next day. So I emailed him right back and I said, look, this idea is in its infancy. I have a lot of homework to do, and I will keep you in the loop and I'll get back to you. So he emailed me back and said, okay, Gary, great. He said, and here's my foundation in New York. So CC them and keep me in the loop. But I love this idea and I want to be part of it. So the next 10 minutes later, guys, seriously, 10 minutes later, Elon Musk did not email me back, but a lady by the name of Gwyneth Shotwell, who is the president of SpaceX, emailed me back. And she said, Gary, Elon wants to know how you got his email. And he loves this idea, and so do I, and we want to be part of it if it's for real. Guys, that happened within 20 minutes the next morning. And I'm going like, oh, my God. So it was almost like a positive vibe being put out into the universe. You know what I mean? Like one of those good vibrations things. So which I totally believe in, but I just never thought it would happen so quickly. So I emailed her back and I said, thank you so much. I'll keep you in the loop. I have a lot of homework to do, but I love that you guys are interested in this. So, guys, I was so excited about it. I kind of put the cart before the horse, and I went to the NASA website because I wanted to see where we could put men and machinery on the Giza Plateau, where the Great Pyramid is and stuff. In Egypt. And and like I said, I've developed real estate lots and stuff like that in Los Angeles. So you have to do a lot of research. But like I said, I just thought I was just so excited about these guys wanting to be part of it.
Well, did they ever stop, though, Gary? Did they ever stop and say, who the hell are you, and are you for real? Was there ever that moment?
Yes. There totally was, but I didn't want to talk about that because we only have an hour and a half, and I didn't want to get into too much detail. But they said, Gary, who are you? How can we check on you? We're not just going to give you money. Yeah. But we still love this idea. The idea kind of like pushed them over the edge. These guys were into it because, like I said, guys, if you're a billionaire, you have your name on everything that's amazing. Sure. How would you like to be associated with the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx?
I have to say that this idea is so simplistic, it's wonderful. You know what I mean?
is.
It's like it's just such a almost an innocent plan in a sense of like we're not talking about being in these countries or anybody's home, in their backyard. It's like going to somewhere that everyone knows about, and that it's kind of in a way, you kind of think of, I don't know why, but when I think of the Great Pyramids and what they are, I almost feel like at peace in a sense. Like it seems right.
I totally agree with you, man, and I really appreciate you saying that because I really do. But I didn't want to bog down the conversation with too much explanation.
Sure, no, I get you. I get
bog away.
Well, there's so much to tell you that I don't want to like I said because I'll talk your heads off, believe me. But hopefully you'll have me back on another show where I can get into all the
sure. No, absolutely, and get to the nuts and bolts. But yeah, you're right, and. You go over there to the NASA website, you take a peek, you're obviously looking at the picture that some astronaut took with a camera.
That's right, from the International Space Station. And I only pulled up one picture, and it's an iconic shot. And can we tell your listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. We are good buds over there at Dark Matter Radio. There's a show over there called Midnight in the Desert. You're all familiar with it, and that's, of course, you can go check that out at midnightinthedesert.com.
Well,
go ahead, Gary.
Actually, if you Google Gary Parker Midnight in the Desert, you'll see the photos. Yeah. You'll see all the photos. That's Gary Parker Midnight in the Desert, and you can also go to and Google An Alien Message Paranormal Globe, which is a magazine online. So it's An Alien Message Paranormal Globe, and you'll see all the photos. But yeah, Gary Parker Midnight in the Desert is a great page. It's a great page.
Sure.
So what happens, guys, is I go to and let me just say this: the NASA file number is if anybody wants to check go right to the NASA website. The call letters or the file number is ISS 032-E-009123. That's ISS 032-E-009123. And what it is, that's the International Space Station where, like Joe was saying, an astronaut actually holds a huge camera out the window and they take these shots. And I just put up the one photo. And as I zoomed in on the Great Pyramid, guys, as soon as I zoomed in, I noticed there were these because you got to remember that the International Space Station, it goes around the Earth. They're approximately 200 miles above Earth. So as I zoomed in, I could see things that looked like shadows beside the Great Pyramid, but then those shadows turned into letters. And when I say letters, not English letters, they look like some kind of ancient letters. And I said, oh my God, those are letters. What are they doing there? So I said, well, this must mean something. Mm-hmm. So I hurried up, I wrote them down on a white piece of paper. I took a picture with my phone, and then I emailed them to a couple Judaic scholars, Aramaic scholars, an Egyptologist in Egypt in the Middle East, and one Judaic scholar down here at the University of Arizona. And I said, does this say anything? Are these words? So the next day, maybe a couple of days later, I get an email back from a very famous Egyptologist by the name of Dr. Salima Ikram. And she's the head of the Egyptology department at the American University of Cairo. And she said, Gary, where did you find these? And guys, as you know, whenever you talk to any academic about the Great Pyramid and writing or anything like that, their red flags go up. They don't want to know from it.
Yeah.
So I purposely did not send them the photo of NASA of the Great Pyramid because I just wanted to see if they could translate those words for me. She said, where did you find them? And I said, I found them written beside the Great Pyramid in a NASA photo. And she said, would you send me the photo and circle these letters? I said, absolutely. So I sent them to her. And she sees it. Now, just so your listeners know, the way I tell everybody the best way to see these letters and to see everything that we're going to talk about tonight is to download the NASA photo onto a laptop computer. Make the room as dark as possible and be ready to open the screen as wide as it will go and then lift your laptop up like an inch or two. And these letters will pop out like a 3D picture. Okay.
Interesting.
And it was designed this way. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's extremely interesting. In fact, I just posted all the pictures over at our social media, which is, of course, After Hours AM, our Facebook group over there. So anyone that is listening right now and you want to do that, you have the opportunity to do that. Just go ahead, click on the picture, and you can take a peek for yourself right there at After Hours AM Facebook group, sitting right there for everybody. So, yeah, go on. So you notice these letters.
So I noticed these letters, and so this famous Egyptologist, Salima Ikram, lady, she goes, well, Gary, send me the photo. So I send her the photo, and she emails me back 20 minutes later, and she goes, this is impossible. And I said, why is it impossible? She said, Gary, there's no buildings on that side of the pyramid. She said the only building that's there is a small museum that has a pharaoh's boat in it. She said, but there's no buildings or mounds there that could make these images. She goes, and some of the letters are actually going up onto the Great Pyramid. She said, Gary, this says something. I don't know what it says, but give me a couple months. I'm going to figure it out because this is a message. I said, oh, my God, this is so cool. Wow. I said, this is amazing, right? So now not only did I find those, and when I say the letters, guys, if you're looking at the photos, if you scroll down, you'll see written on a white piece of paper with black ink, you'll see like a bunch of letters that, like I said, they don't look like English, but one looks like a big Y and a big G, and there's a dot.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. They
there's like an N
strange.
at the top. There's like an N.
Right. Yeah,
that's those. Okay.
So
got it. Okay.
And now I'm looking at the black and white superimposed that you have on, of course, again, the Midnight in the Desert website. Just search out Gary Parker, and it'll come right up for you guys in the Google. And very interesting. Now, what did they ever get back to you with what it said?
Yes, yeah, they sure did. Well, if I can build just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Build it up a little bit and then let us know, man, because it's very interesting.
So what happens is after I send those photos, after I send the letters to these brilliant Judaic scholars and Aramaic scholars, and these guys have worked on the Dead Sea Scrolls, okay?
Yeah, they're not newbies here. They know how to decipher some ancient writing.
Right. So what happens is, guys, then I find, before they email me back, because I figure it's going to take a week or so to hear back from them, I also find some ancient Hebrew. Now, I knew it was ancient Hebrew. Naturally, I didn't know what it said, but I found it above the smaller pyramid. And in your photo, if you see, if you scroll down, you'll see letters that I wrote. It says, it looks like a big E and an L.
Yeah.
And there's like a W with a period above, and then another L. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, looking right at it.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Got it. So what happens is I sent that down to the Judaic scholar here at the University of Arizona, which is only an hour and a half away from me. And the guy's name is Dr. Edward Wright, famous guy, writes a lot of books, like I said, worked on the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yep.
And he emails me back and he goes, Gary, I know exactly what this says. This says God and the Lord of the Underworld. And I go, that's amazing. He goes, well,
wow.
Yeah, right. And he goes, that was easy. He goes, those other letters. He goes, I'm having a problem with those. He said, because that looks like a mixture of things, and I don't know what it says. He says, but Gary, you have to come down and meet with me and show me these, the God and the Lord of the Underworld.
So
I said, absolutely. So I jump. We make a meeting for the next week. I jump in the car, the truck, and I go down, and we're sitting in his office, and I have my laptop up, and we turn off all the lights, we close his blinds, and he sees it. And he says, Gary, as I tilt the screen back, it pops out. And he goes, yeah. He goes, that says that. He goes, but Gary, I'm not going to believe this stuff that you're showing me. And I said, well, why wouldn't you believe it? He said, because I don't know you. He says, and you may have photoshopped this. And I said, well, let's go to the NASA website, pull up the photo from there, and I'll show you. You'll find it. And he said, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say he has a reputation to protect as well, and probably that probably kicked in and going, I can't be involved in this.
Right. And he goes, Gary, well, this is, he goes, this, because guys, I not only showed him the letters, but I also showed him there's people and there's faces and buildings. The photo actually has 4 levels to it. And the more you tilt it, the more levels you see. But you have to, because everybody's eyes are different, you have to be in a dark room, you have to have a laptop computer, you have to zoom in and zoom out, but you'll see them. There's 4 levels to the thing. And and I had seen them, and I said, oh my God, how did 4 levels get to be here? So anyway, so Dr. Wright, he actually translated a couple other things for me. And then he said, Gary, I don't have time for this. I have like 10,000 students online, and I have classes. And he said, look, this is fascinating, but I'm not going to be bothered with it. And I said, but Dr. Wright, what if it's a message? And what if it's a message to mankind? And he said, well, good luck with that. There's the door. So I said, all right.
I'm surprised, though, in some ways he does not want to be credited with the possibly the discovery of all humanity's time, and what maybe even has the reason between life, or life. I mean, the whole thing.
Well, here's what you got. Here's one thing you guys have to know. Most academics are not Indiana Jones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These guys get paid to write books. They get to like dust off a few tombs here and there in Egypt. They don't want to. Yeah. They don't want to think that. They're not thinking like paranormal people. Sure. They're not thinking like you guys. Their minds aren't expanded like that. If it's not written on papyrus, or if it's not written on a pyramid, they're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it's open to interpretation.
That's it.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You know what? I figured, what are you going to do? You're going. These are academics. It's going to happen. They don't want. They're in their comfort zone. They don't want to be out of their comfort zone. They really don't. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So anyway,
and they also don't want to be bested by anybody that, especially one of the unwashed masses that would have founded this.
That's true. But then again, I say to him, because he goes, well, Gary, why do you get to see this and nobody else? And I said, well, how many people in your life, Dr. Wright, ever came up with an idea to restore the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx? And he goes, well, you have a point there. So anyway,
well, and you got to think too, Gary. I mean, this is a picture that was taken. I mean, it's kind of like one in so many people are going to even look at this and look at it the same way, because it could be taken from any different angle, and the image and the message could be lost.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And it's funny, that picture was taken on July 20. It was actually taken and downloaded on July 26, 2012. Mm-hmm. Okay, July 26, 2012. Well, 5 months after July 26, 2012, the Mayan calendar ended on December 21st, 2012.
Yep. Yes, it did.
Okay, so
I said, yes, it did. It all ended, and
yes. So these things are way too close. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
So what happens is since I found the 4 levels, and on each level, I not only found huge faces and people and like writing. I found so much writing. I said, you know what? I got to take this up to people who actually build software and know a lot about the computer
sure.
world. So what I did was I went up to Arizona State University and I met with 2 professors. These guys are geniuses. One was named Dr. Gupta. The other one was named Dr. Whitehouse. We get into their office, made the room real dark, got the photo on the laptop, tilted it back. As soon as Dr. Whitehouse saw the things, and I went through each thing and I showed him things. He looked at me and said, Gary, this is impossible. We don't have this technology. The only people who could have maybe put this stuff in here is NASA, and why would they do that with their own photo?
Yeah.
I said, that makes total sense. And he goes, Gary, I'm telling you, what you're showing us is impossible. Dr. Gupta, with a magnifying glass, said, Gary, here's another problem we have. He said that I have. He said, on this photo, the binary code are all zeros. There's no ones. This is impossible. And I said, why is that impossible? They said, because, and I didn't know this, guys, because I'm computer illiterate, believe me. They said all computers are based on 0 and 1, open and closed.
Sure.
And that's the binary code. And they said, these are all zeros. And I said, well, will you guys help me? They said, hell no. They said, we're too busy. We don't want to be part of this. So I said, okay, well, I've heard that before. So what I did, guys, was since I found so much Hebrew in this stuff, in the photo, I decided to go to some Orthodox rabbis over here in Phoenix because I wanted more translations, and Dr. Wright wouldn't do any more for me. So I said, okay.
Boy, go ahead. Gary, you just kept hitting roadblock after roadblock. I bet you start taking rejection really well at the end of this.
Well, you got to remember, being in Hollywood, guys, if you've ever tried to sell a script or you ever tried to sell a pitch, because I'm a pitch man. I would go into a studio and me and a couple writers, I'd be the pitch guy. I'd get up and I'd do the spiel, and we'd be with some producers and to see if they would buy the pitch so we could be paid to write it. Guys, you have to have – I'm like made of steel. So, there's nothing will stop me. Like, if you can sell a pitch or a movie script in Hollywood and not be that talented, to me, you're a genius. Okay, so
well, if you're trying to restore the damn pyramids, I mean, God, yeah, you do have nerves of steel.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
So believe me, some academic telling me, drop dead. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Stand in front of a guy that runs a studio, and he says, "That's the worst pitch I ever heard. I hope you die." Then you feel a little bad, but you get over it.
I've been there. I've been there in radio. We got to take a break, everyone. When we come back, more Gary Parker. Don't go anywhere, and the story only gets better. Be right back right after this. You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
It's your ideas, work, and creativity that make it your yard. At ACE, we're here to help with hoses and sprinklers to nurture growth, gardening tools for the shape of good things to come, even the right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at ACE, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. ACE,
the helpful place.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Back to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me, as always, is Mr. Greg Bakken. And tonight we are talking all strangeness having to do with the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, and, of course, the Sphinx, with a great guest tonight. Gary Parker is talking with us about his own journey finding writing on the side that no one else even saw in that particular area of the world. Things that maybe would question even religion as the way we see it. So, anyhow, Gary, getting back to what was going on in your life at that time, you've gone to pretty much anyone that's anyone having to do with the pyramids. You've gone to software engineers to find out whether or not you can make a program to decipher these kinds of things, only to find out the picture is all zeros. There's no binary code that the computers run on, and you were thrown out of a million offices. So, what else is going on at this point?
So what happens, guys, is naturally it was a little depressing. And then I decided, well, you know what I should do is, here's one thing too, guys. When I looked at the photo, when I looked at the NASA photo, like I said, if you pull up the NASA photo, the one where I have it outlined in red, can you pull that one up? Do you see that?
Yep,
looking right at it.
Okay, so what happens is if you and your listeners, you look at the photo straight on, and if you shrink it just a little bit, you zoom it out a little bit, and you shrink it, and you cut it right down the middle, you'll see on the right-hand side is the Giza Plateau, and on the left-hand side is Cairo with the Nile River, correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're
But
correct.
what happened, guys, is when I was looking at the photo, I saw, and I have it outlined in red there, I saw a huge left profile of an alien head. And when I say alien, not like a gray alien, but like an alien with a huge elongated head that's going out of the frame up above.
Look at that.
And as you come down, you can see he has like a little pointy nose right above the Great Pyramid. And it comes down, he has a lip, and then he has a mouth, and then he has a round chin and a real thick neck. And if you think of the Nefertiti bust, the wife, the Queen Nefertiti of Akhenaten's wife.
Yes.
And who had the real bit. And can you guys see it at all?
I'm looking right at it. Yeah, I see the face, I see the mouth, I see the chin you're talking about.
Okay, you see it. You can see that.
Yeah, I can see it very, very well.
You know what this also reminds me of?
Go ahead.
It reminds me of Easter Island also. Like the outline sketch that you've done.
Yes. But more of a classic, like I said, like almost Akhenaten type head going all the way out in the frame, but he's got a real thick neck, and he's like looking east. He's looking to the left. To the left is east. And can you see where I outlined, there's like a cross there. There's like a cross. You see that? Well, that's a road called Ring Road, which is an 8-lane freeway that goes into Cairo, and it crosses where it intersects there was the Nile River. Well, when I saw that, I said, oh, my God, that alien's profile, the left profile of an alien is the whole Giza Plateau. It's looking east at that cross.
Well, I was going to say, Gary, though, let me be a skeptic just for a minute, just for a second, healthy skeptic. Are you sure this is not pareidolia that we're looking at? Maybe we're trying to make more out of what's there. Because we're geared and we're hardwired to want to see faces in just about anything.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But no, you're absolutely wrong.
That's all right, too.
But you're absolutely wrong. No, we all do. You're absolutely right. But guys, I'm going to prove to you a little later on why that face is a face. And I actually drew his picture because I ended up meeting that guy.
Sure. Okay, and that's cool. The only other question I have along the same lines as Joel, and I'm just asking the question, is how long had that road existed to be able to create that cross? Because would that road had been around by the time that the pyramids were created?
You know what, guys? That's a really good question. I don't know. All I know is this whole photo is a message. The whole photo, and it's designed to be a message.
Okay.
It was designed, and I'm going to explain how it is. But guys, can you actually be honest with me? Can you see the outline that I made of that big alien's face?
I can.
Looking east?
I can see it right now, even without it being traced. I can see the features of what could be taken, as a face.
So what I did, guys, as you know, because I don't just see it and then not do anything. I actually send it to experts to see what they say.
Sure.
So when he was looking across the way there, and there was a cross there, that cross, what I did was I tilted the laptop all the way back, and I noticed when I tilted the laptop all the way back in a dark room that all the lights from Egypt disappeared. All the lights from Cairo disappeared, except for about 12 white lights that are up by that cross. So what I did was I said, oh my God, that looks like a constellation. So what I did was I got a white piece of paper, I put the dots out, and I sent it to a couple of astronomers at the University of Arizona and at ASU. They emailed me back and they said, Gary, you sent us the constellation of Cygnus, Cygnus. Well, guys, I didn't know that, but when I Googled it, Cygnus is known as the constellation of the Northern Cross or the Swan. Well, that's where yes. So what it's like I said, if you tilt your laptop back, you'll see that it turns into a constellation. So yes, it blew me away. So after I saw that, guys, I said, my God, I got to get in touch with NASA now. It's time to talk with NASA. So what I did was I got all the information together and I Googled the closest place to me where NASA has an office or a branch is called the Ames Research Center in Northern California. And these are the guys that are in charge of the robots up on Mars.
Okay. The rovers, yeah.
There you
go.
Did
they take you in with open arms going, oh my God, Gary, you cracked the code. You're a year supply of Mars bars.
That's really funny. No. So, but what happens is when I email them, you can get their email right off the internet. I emailed to the director, the guy who runs the place, and his name was Dr. Peter Warden. And I emailed him. I said, and I put a heading. I said, "Alien message beside Great Pyramid. I'd like to show you the photo." So he emailed me back the next day, and he said, "Send it to me. I want to see it." So I sent it to him, and I also sent it to 3 other physicists that work there. They didn't bother with me. So I sent it to him, and he says, I can't. He emails me back 30 minutes later, says, I can't see it. And I said, Dr. Warden, are you in a dark room? Do you have a laptop? And he said, no. I said, well, get a laptop, get in a dark room, and call me. He said, well, can we do it tomorrow? I said, absolutely. Next morning, he calls me. He says, okay, I have a dark room. Guys, I tell him how to do it. He's looking at it. And I'll remember, I sent him the outline of the alien. I sent him the writing. I sent him everything. So all of a sudden, I say, okay, zoom in on the Great Pyramid. So he zooms in. I said, tilt the screen back. He tilts it. He says, I see it. I see the letters. I said, great, fantastic. I said, I showed him 2 more things. He goes, great. He says, Gary, I see it. I said, now shrink the image. Now, can you see where I outlined it in red and the cross up there? And he says, yeah. I said, can you see an alien's left profile? As soon as I said that, there was a pause, and he says, Gary, can I get back to you? Give me a couple weeks. I want to talk this over with my superiors. I said, no problem. I'll get back.
Never heard from him again.
But 3 weeks later, I see on the internet that he has retired from NASA. He gets together with Stephen Hawking, the great physicist, and they actually got a Russian billionaire to give them $100 million to find ETs.
Wow.
So yeah, that's awfully convenient, Gary. I mean, you know.
That's okay. That happens. Yeah. But no, I was really kind of bummed out. But guys, but you know what though? Like I said, I'm used to having doors slam in my face.
Sure.
Believe me, and I just said, okay, he's a schmuck. What are you going to do? I'm just going to move on. But yeah, it was kind of devastating because it was a real drag. Because I figured he was my in, and everybody's going to see it now, and he's going to help me show everybody.
Could I ask a quick question though?
Absolutely.
I was curious when we were talking last time about the letters, and there was a couple different messages there. Is there anyone given any sort of idea whether all of these messages were done at the same time, or if like messages were added over the years?
Well, to tell you the truth, and I was going to get to that. Let me just say that. But just you mean were they added beside the Great Pyramid? Is that what you're saying?
Well, because there's a couple different messages, right? Like you have on the Midnight and Desert site, number 5 ancient text, and then you have number 6 Hebrew text.
Yes.
Like were those placed at the same time, or were like maybe number 5 because of ancient text, and then 6 was added sometime after that?
Well, guys, here's what happened. And I'm going a little too far ahead, but let me just say this. What happened, guys, is the Great Pyramid is a machine. It's always worked. I'm going to explain to you guys and your listeners how it works. And what it did, it took 13 years for it to put all these images into the photo. And when I say into the photo, it was into the sand all around the Giza Plateau and all over.
You're saying the pyramid... It created this.
Yes, it did with vibration. What it did, guys, I went back. I went to the NASA satellite images, and I also went to the Egyptian Road Department has satellite images whenever they work on roads. I went back to 1999, and those letters that you see beside the Great Pyramid in 1999, they're at the top of the photo. And by 2012, 13 years later, they're right beside the Great Pyramid.
So they moved.
They vibrated. Everything was built on vibration, at all 4 levels. Now, do you guys see a picture that I drew of an alien there?
I do.
He is elongated. Okay,
yes.
You see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let me just say this. A year after all this happened, and remember, like I said, this photo was downloaded on July 26, 2012. On July 26, 2016, let me just say, I met that alien. Okay, that alien. But there's a whole story.
Wait, hold on. You physically.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll get there. Don't worry. So let's back up. I think we put the cart in front of the horse just a little bit because
way before the horse.
You blew my mind when you said, "Hey, I met the alien. He's a cool guy.
Exactly,
we had high knees together." Okay,
yeah,
so let's back up a little bit. Okay, you're talking with NASA. The guy retires. Yes. He gets a big grant from some billionaire from Russia, going, "Screw you, Gary. I got everything I need to go live the way I want to now. Thank you." And so now you're kind of left twisting the wind with your theory.
Right. Very good.
And your proof.
Okay, so what happens is I'm pretty bummed out. And guys, I've never ever in my whole life had a paranormal experience. I've never seen a UFO. I've never seen an alien. I've never seen a ghost. But I believe in all of it. But I just never seen it. And I love ancient aliens. Okay. What happens is I'm asleep at night. The night after that night when Dr. Warden did that to me. And cut me off, and I realized he wasn't going to have anything to do with me. What happens is I have a dream, and in the dream, a voice says to me, a voice, a guy's voice, sounded like it was in a tunnel. He says, Gary, go to the river, stand in the water, face east, and say these words in Hebrew. And the words in Hebrew were in English, were Father, 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 Holy, 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 where did you come from? Where did you really come from? So I woke up and I was like, oh my God, this is outrageous. What was that all about? But I figured if it had to do with the Great Pyramid, I'm going to have to do what this thing said.
Sure.
So because I figured all this is a message and this is going to help me because I was bummed out about the NASA thing.
Yeah.
Well, what happened, guys, I didn't tell you before, too, that I had met with some rabbis. And the rabbis had translated some of the things that they found in the photo for me. And some of the things were people's names and other things. But the rabbis refused to believe it. They thought I photoshopped it. So I said, okay, no problem. So what happens is I don't know how to speak Hebrew. So what I did was I called one of the rabbis the next morning and I said, could you tell me how to phonetically, write it out for me, how to say Father, 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 Holy, 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 where do you come from? Where do you really come from? So they said, sure, we can do that. So a couple hours later, I had rehearsed it. So I go down luckily for me, there's a small town not too far from me called Florence, Arizona. And there's a river called the Gila River, spelled with a G, Gila River. And it's mostly dried up, but in this one area, it's like a small lake. So I said, well, I'm going to go stand in there. I took off my shoes, and I'm not naked. I'm like, and it's approximately 400 to 500 yards off the main road. So I go to the water. I take off my shoes and socks. I stand in the water just up to my ankles. I face east. I put my hands up, and I yell out in this loud voice, and I say in Hebrew, Abba, 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 Kadosh, 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 where did you come from? Where did you really come from? And I say it like 6 times, and nothing happens. And I say, well, maybe I should try it again. So I yell it out real, and you guys can tell how loud I am.
Oh, yeah.
I yell it real loud, and nothing happens. So I come back home. I go to sleep that night, and I wake up. And guys, I usually wake up around 7 o'clock in the morning, between 7 and 7:15. Guys, all of a sudden, I sit up in bed and I'm soaking wet. Like in sweat. It's just pouring off me, and I'm in pretty good shape, guys. I work out all the time. I very rarely ever move when I'm asleep. And I look at the clock. It says 5:45, and I go, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And I swear, it feels like I'm like shaking.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I look across at my desk, and I have the laptop. It's off, but it's open on the desk, and all of a sudden, the NASA photo just pops on. It pops on. I go, holy shit! Are you telling? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry for cussing.
Yeah.
I said, holy cow! I go, did I make a connection? So I start looking at the photo at 5:45 in the morning. Guys, I can see everything in the photo.
Gary, hold the phone. Hold. Let me back up a second. So you're there. You're sweating like a greased pig, and you get up, and you're like, what the hell's wrong with me? You look at your laptop, out of nowhere, without the computer even being on at all, pops up the NASA photo. You had to have had an epiphany at that point that something ain't right here.
Well, guys, the whole thing is but I had been doing this for almost a year now, going on all the meetings, finding more stuff in the photo. So I was ready for something to happen, and I was excited. There was no fear at all. But I just couldn't believe that I was sweating so bad, like in bed, because the air conditioner was on, the fans were on. It was like I was sweating. You guys wouldn't believe it. But anyway, after I saw it and I started seeing it, I saw so many things in the photo. I said, oh, my God, it worked. I made a connection. Well, guys, I jump right back down into the truck. I drive down to the water, and I put my hands up. And it's only like maybe 7 in the morning, and I yell up, just like I'm talking to you guys.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, my knees got this or Jesus that.
No, I hear you.
I went just like this. I went, hey. Is this for real? Are you kidding me? I said, is this for real? Just like that, guys. Like it was no what's his name, Ezekiel at the river, when, falling down on his hands and knees. It was like, dude, are you kidding me?
Are you messing with me? Is this the real deal?
And it was like, and nothing happened then either. But when I came back, guys, I could see everything. And actually, I showed friends and family and all these other people, and I showed a reporter down here at a small paper in Florence. They actually wrote a story about me. It was called Gary Parker and the New Garden of Eden, because in the photo, not only are these aliens, there's tons of aliens, but there's also all this writing, and there's also, guys, where you see that ring road? You see that ring road?
Sure, yeah, I see it.
You see where it stops right at the Giza Plateau and it turns into a white wash?
Yes.
It's very white. Above that whitewash, just above it, running along the top of it, if you tilt the photo back, you will see a blue river. There's 4 rivers, and there's the main river runs above Ring Road. When you tilt it, you'll see it. It will turn blue. And guys, right up in that river, above that river, is the Garden of Eden, and behind that is heaven, and it's unbelievable. And you can see on every level there's something. It was like, so when you were talking about aliens and God, dude.
So wait a minute. You're talking about the figurative heaven, right? And the figurative Garden of Eden.
I'm talking literal. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see it. But you know, what happens is I see it, and I've seen it now for the past 2 years, and I know every detail. So what I did when I first saw it, I said, I didn't know what it was, so I took it to a real religious person, friend of mine, and he saw it. He goes, Gary, that's the Garden of Eden. How did that get in the NASA photo? I said, he goes, look, there's the sword that's on fire. He said, there's 2 elephants. There's the tree of life, and the tree actually has the left profile of a woman whose name is Asherah. And on the far left-hand side, I always saw this big head. And it had a neck, but there was writing under it. And when I showed one of the rabbis, I said, what does that say in Hebrew? They go, that says Uriel. I said, who is Uriel? They said, that's the angel on the east side of Eden. I said, what? And they saw that in the photo, the angel has 4 faces. On his left side, he's a lion. On his right side, he's a raven. And they saw it, and they said, we refuse to believe it. This is impossible.
Well, I was going to say, did it shake their faith at that point? I mean, they're looking right at it. I mean, there had to be a point where they would say, nope, we can't believe this. This is
guys,
gotta be wrong.
I've met with 5 priests. 2 of them started crying. They said, Gary, this is the end of the world. I said, no, it's the end of the world as we know it. I said, it's going to change. Everything's going to change. And guys, this is where it comes in a year later when I went down to a voice. And like I said, I only heard the voice twice. One once when the guy told me to go down to the river, and when I did, and I said those words. And then after that, I went down pretty much once a week just to say, hey, I'm doing the best I can. Any way you can help me out, guys, I'm here. And I had friends come down and film me to see if there's anything beside me in the water, and there was. So what happens is then one night on July 26th, it was one morning, July 26, 2016, the voice said to me, Gary, go to the river today. And I said, okay, no problem. I go to the river. I'm there. I do the whole spiel. All of a sudden, guys, I'm not going to take up too much time, but that alien shows up.
So the alien pops up. He decides to grace his presence at that point. After you go back to the river and declare your, tell them, hey, I'm doing the best I can to tell them what's going on. Alien pops up and he looks just like, I'm going to assume, what you drew.
And how does he pop up? I mean, how does he appear? Like, does he come up out of the water, or?
No. What happens is I'm looking east, and as I'm looking up into the sky, there's kind of like and I'm looking east, and I look up into the sky, like I said, it's blue, and it's summertime, it's hot, we're in the middle of the desert, and it's water, there's nobody around, and all of a sudden I see, it almost looks like crystals, kind of like moving around in a circular motion, and I'm thinking, okay, finally, something's going to happen. But you got to remember, the voice told me, go to the river today. I said, no problem. So all of a sudden I'm looking up, all of a sudden you see like a big circular, a big round, almost like globe of crystals moving, and it's moving to the left, which is to the north, and it's moving to the left, and it's hovering about 50 feet, 30 to 50 feet off of the water. Okay, all of a sudden it starts to flatten out. The crystals start to flatten out, and they make like a flat platform. All of a sudden, below this platform, guys, because it sounds totally nuts, but it's 2 angels, what we call angels, but they're called cherubim. And one of them, I recognized it was the guy named Uriel, because I knew his face from the photo. I've been looking at it for over a year. And the rabbis told me his name. So but there was only 2 of them. Well, there was this real famous prophet. His name was Ezekiel.
Yes.
And he was a guy who saw 4 cherubim with spinning wheels. These spinning wheels with eyes, and they had 2 sets of wings. So naturally, I'm thinking, these are aliens, man. They're what ancient man called angels. These are aliens, man. They're aliens.
And what did you call them? And I'm sorry, what were they called again? Cherubim?
Cherubim with a C. Cherubim. Cherubim.
So kind of like it's an extension of the word cherub.
Yes, exactly. But see, they always make cherubs look like fat little kids.
Exactly.
These things are terrifying. They're terrifying if you don't know what you're going to see. If you see them, like me, I've been looking at him for over a year. I knew exactly who he was.
Yeah, but as soon as I saw his face,
because
Gary, didn't you have any fear at all? I mean,
no, dude, no. Even. I was so excited because I thought, oh my God, I'm the boy, I'm their man, I'm the messenger boy. This is so cool. But guys, I wish there was somebody there who could see it so they could verify that I'm not, losing my mind here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, guys, I had no fear at all. None. It was like, finally, something's happening and something's going to get going because I'm getting tired of people kicking me out of their offices.
Well, I don't blame you. Yeah,
right. So all of a sudden, I look at him, I go, "You're Uriel," and he goes, "Yes," and he was moving with it. He was speaking with his mouth. Now, here's the other thing, too, guys. They didn't look real. They looked like a projection. They looked like you could put your hand through them. And they were out in the middle of the water where I couldn't get to them. But they looked like they were being projected from a distance.
Okay.
And if you ever read the thing Ezekiel's vision, where they look like burnt brass or burnt metal, they do. But it looks like they're going in and out of different dimensions. That's almost like a holographic image. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I mean, why wouldn't they hologram themselves? And
right.
That makes total sense.
Exactly. So what happens is Uriel says, Abba wants to speak to you. I said, fantastic. I'm ready. Let's go. All of a sudden, as soon as he said that, you got to remember, too, these cherubim, they weren't small. They're about 18 to 20 feet tall. They're huge. But like I said, I don't know if they're that huge in real life, but they were huge, okay?
Sure.
Their images were. So all of a sudden, that alien that I drew in the photo, on the Gary Parker Midnight in the Desert, or on your website, you people can see it, all of a sudden he appears on top, okay? He appears on top of the platform. Okay, the crystal platform. Now, in Ezekiel's vision, he said God was sitting in a throne, crystal throne, but he couldn't see his face. Dude, I could see his face, no problem.
What did he say? They say, "Yo, Gary, how you doing, man? Been a long time."
No. He's like, "What's up?" No.
Yeah.
No, seriously though, guys. And I know I'm making it kind of light, but I think it's supposed to be. I don't think we're supposed to be in fear.
It would be a very profound moment, though, Gary. I mean, that would be, we are making light of it, but it must have been completely earth-shattering, shattering what you think of,
Joe, but I had seen his face in this photo for over a year, and I saw what was inside his face. What that means is this: inside of this alien's face, yes, I could see his face, no problem. But inside his face were between 50 and 60 human faces, men and women, that all looked like they were from the Bible. Like if what Jesus would look like or Moses would look like. And they were all speaking a different language, like Hebrew or however Aramaic would sound.
Sure.
I couldn't make it out, but they were all talking. But they made up his face. Okay. He had the huge head, but he didn't talk to me with his mouth. He talked to me telepathically. Okay, and what happens is, and he was wearing a huge red robe. He was huge. He had huge shoulders, huge head, huge chest. On his chest, and when I say robe, too, guys, the robe it's like it almost had gloves that covered his huge hands and his and went all the way through the arms, almost like a wetsuit. And it was huge, and on it was red, but in black letters all over it. They kept changing were Hebrew letters and different kind of symbols, and they changed all the time. Go ahead.
Now, did he turn around and? I'm sure you'll get to that, but I mean, did he answer any of your questions? I mean,
absolutely.
Or did he leave you hanging?
He didn't turn around because he was facing me the whole time. But I turned away because I wanted to look and see if someone else was around that I could say, "Can you see this?" You know what I mean? And naturally, he said to me, I said to him, I said, "Well, what should I call you?" And he said, "Call me Abba," which is father. And I said, "Okay, fantastic." I said, "This is the." And you guys got to remember something too. I've never missed ever a Ridley Scott movie. Mm-hmm. I've seen every alien movie that ever was made, and when I saw him, I just thought, this is the coolest thing I ever saw in my life. It didn't scare me at all. I just said, "Oh my God!" Eventually, this is going to happen. Eventually, because it just makes too much sense that aliens had something to do with us. It makes too much sense. You know, that whole thing that God can click his fingers and make everything appear. That's crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean we're digesting a lot right now, Gary.
Yes, it's like a tsunami of information.
Hearing about your encounter with what we can only guess is the grand creator, and then not only that, but having more or less an encounter with quote unquote God or the Father.
I actually asked him. I said, after I said, "What can I call you?" He said, "God." No, I'm sorry. He said, "Ab." And I said, "Fantastic." I said, and he wanted me to shut up because he had things to tell me, but I had too many questions to ask. And I said them out loud. I know he could probably read my thoughts, but I said to him, I said, listen, I said, here's my problem. I said, the Jews believe that you are a spirit, that you're not, that God doesn't have arms and legs and a head and shoulders, but you do. Yeah. And so do we. I said, are you God? Are you the guy who created everything? And he said, I created mankind. I'm the God of Abraham. I'm the God of Moses. I'm the God of David. I'm the person who created you. And I said, are you from Cygnus? And he said, yes. He said, it's all in the photo. I said, I know, I found it. And he said, and then I said to him, I said, if God's a spirit, I said, I see that you have arms and legs, and even though you look like you're a projected image, a holographic image, I said, who created you? Because guys, he looked like he had arms and legs. I mean, he's a biological creature.
Sure.
And he actually said, we don't know. Not that I don't know.
Wow. Well, Gary, I got to cut you off there. We have to run to break. Well, let's get deeper into that. We come back. Wow, man, you're blowing everyone's mind right here. It is just blowing everyone's mind. It's a lot to digest, a lot to think about. Don't go anywhere. There's more to the story, believe it or not. We'll be right back right after this. Listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
In 1999, The Exorcist was voted the scariest movie of all time.
Your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
Entertainment Weekly calls it the most viscerally harrowing movie ever made.
That thing upstairs isn't my daughter.
The most electrifying movie of the 20th century is now coming back to theaters.
Where's Reagan?
In here with us.
Author William Peter Blatty and director William Friedkin have created an expanded, thrilling new version of The Exorcist with footage that has never been seen before.
She needs a priest.
Don't miss The Exorcist in the version you've never seen. Possessing theaters everywhere. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Greg Bach. And if you're just tuning in, you have missed a wild ride. I don't have enough time here to recap everything that we've talked about, so you're going to want to download the podcast and take a listen to this. But I will get everyone up to speed that's just cannot believe what they heard. Gary finally goes down the river, much like Peter Gabriel in that story. Take me to the river. He goes down to the river, and he has a conference or a rub. He gets an audience with what we can only call, for our purposes, God. And he announces himself, this individual, this entity, this creature, this alien, whatever you want to call it, as the creator of mankind. Well, Gary, after you drop that bombshell and everyone that's listening, and believe me, it is a buzz over here on Facebook. Oh my God, jaws are dropping, things are changing. What do you think this does to mankind now? What kind of implications is he, the creator, worried about the turmoil that'll cause?
Oh, you know what? Here's the thing, guys. After when I finally shut up, because I asked him where he was from, and was Cygnus the place and all that kind of good stuff. I actually said to him, I said, when are you coming back? And he said, July 26th, 2022. And I said, will you return to Egypt? And he said, no, we will return to the Temple Mount. And if you guys know where that is, that's in Jerusalem.
Yes.
Yep.
If you're okay, so you're familiar with that. Well, if you're also familiar with this, there's a thing called the Third Temple. And the Jews in Israel, they all try to raise money to build the Third Temple, because the first two were knocked down by the first one by the Babylonians, and the second one's by the Romans. And so every time you watch, you ever see a shot of Jerusalem, you see the rabbis and the Jewish people, they're davening or rocking back and forth against the west wall, and they always pray for the Third Temple to be built so God will return. Well, the thing was, God, or Abba, told me that he was going to return in the Third Temple. So what that means is there was a real famous Jewish rabbi sage back in the 1500s by the name of Rashi. And he was really famous in whenever they interpret the Torah or the Tanakh, they always go to Rashi and to another guy named the Rambam. And Rashi said that man does not have to build the Third Temple. The Third Temple will come down with God inside of it from the sky. Well, that's exactly what Abba told me. He was going to return in the Third Temple. So when I told that to the rabbis, that's when they kicked me out. They said, well, you're out of your mind. Yeah. And even though I showed it to them on the photo, they refused to believe it. So, guys, I feel like I've been rambling.
Can I just say that you just did the ultimate name drop just a couple minutes ago? What God told me, like, oh, la-di-da.
Well, actually, he actually, like, he told me to call him Abba, and
personal names now.
Sure, now they're on first name basis.
Father, but yeah, I'm the messenger boy, and he actually.
According, just to back up, just to reiterate that date, July 22nd, which is a Tuesday.
No, July 26th.
July 26th, which is a Tuesday, rather, of July, of 2022. 22, which is a Tuesday again. He'll be showing up. So mark your calendars, everyone. That's the end of the world as you know it.
Well, yes.
Now, can he? Do you know if he can? And dare I say I could be completely wrong. But can God see? Can he prophesize the future? Did he prophesize the future? I mean, apart from saying that he's going to show up, which he's just saying what he's doing, was there any sort of prophesizing going on?
No. Guys, what happens is this. Remember I told you how the Great Pyramid on vibration made everything in the sand over a 13-year period?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What happened was Abba showed me that there are thousands and thousands of great pyramids on thousands of planets in thousands of galaxies. We are just one, and every one of these planets are in different stages of evolution. But we are at a point now where we are going to take the next step, and the next step is them returning to the Temple Mount and giving us, and we're actually going to give it to Israel and the Jewish people first, and then they're going to spread it out throughout the world. And it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be over a couple generations. They're going to be here for a long, long time, but they're going to be housed. They're like command centers going to be right on the Temple Mount. Mm-hmm. And guys, what's going to happen is we are going to go out into space with these beings, and we're going to help build other great pyramids and do other things and help other planets and planets that aren't as developed as we are.
Okay, but what about when you die then? If there's no heaven, because clearly there's not. If he came down,
there is.
So when you die,
it's not. You don't stay there. You don't stay there. Heaven's a place. It's in the photo, guys. Everything I'm telling you, even God, even Abba and the angel and these angels, these cherubim, they're all in the photo. Everything I'm telling you is in the photo. If you take time and you look at it, you zoom in, zoom out, you'll see it. But yes, there is a heaven. But guys, we don't get to stay there. Our souls are eternal. Our souls actually are used as energy to propel this third temple throughout the universes. Human souls, and remember, there's billions. I think it's 54 million people die a year on our planet. Times that by thousands and thousands. They use those souls, and they're reusable energy. It's not like you die. Your soul lives on unless you're a murderer, or then you're screwed. But
you're still screwed even in that universe. Yeah.
How do you? Because you said something that kind of caught my ear, and I'm sure it was your terminology, not God's command center. And how will we know that this isn't an invasion?
No, that's a great question. I've had that before. I've had people say, "Well, Gary, how do you know this is all good?" Guys, I don't. I can't say for 100% I'm sure. I know the vibe that I get, which is very positive and it's all great. But do I know for sure? Absolutely not. Would I say to, like, when world leaders eventually, they're going to meet with me. There's no doubt in my mind. And what will happen? They'll say, and I'll say to them, do not disband any of your armies. Don't be bowing down to this thing. Let them prove to us, like Superman. He's got to prove that he's good for us. We'll fight him. We'll get Batman to use that spear on him. But what I'm saying is yes, they're aliens. We've never seen them before. Not our generation. Not for thousands and thousands of years. And we're not ancient people. We're not just going to buy. We're here. We're going to help you. You have to prove it, or there's going to be a big fight.
Because it almost sounds like workforces in some ways.
I was going to say, it almost sounds like we're fodder for him.
Yeah, like we're going around helping build other things, like a workforce, so that they're using our souls to keep powering them.
That sounds evil. That sounds like an evil plan to me.
I know, guys. I am telling you, it might be, and maybe I because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I barely got out of junior high, but what happens is. I don't think it is. I think it is all positive. We're going to live a long, long time with no more deformities or birth defects. It's really going to be great. But like I said, do I believe that everything's going to be rainbows and unicorns? No. Is there going to be some bad? There's got to be some bad. There's nothing all good. And people who say, well, like I said, when I saw these aliens and when I saw Abba, I didn't feel, how when people say, well, I saw Jesus and I felt love, and I didn't feel that at all. I was standing in muddy water. I was excited to see this guy, but I didn't feel a sense of love and everything's going to be perfect. I saw an alien that people are going to freak out when he shows up. And when they show up, because these people, these other beings, they look human, but they have more than one face.
Question,
They're
Gary.
not human.
Why should we help them? Why would mankind want to help something that clearly just wants to use us as rocket fuel to go out to other places?
I made it very simplistic. Guys, here's the thing. Do you want to keep living like the way we're living now, with worried that one guy's going to drop a nuclear bomb, some kid is dying, little kid is dying of cancer? I think we have to evolve. I think it's time that we take that next step. How much longer can we keep living in fear all the time?
No, I hear you, but you yourself said you didn't get exactly the warm and fuzzies from the sky.
I did. I got a positive vibe, but guys, I'm very skeptical, even when it's in front of me. I'm thinking, okay, what's up? I was born and raised in Delaware. My family had been there since 1658. On my mother's side, they fought in every war. So yeah, when I see something that it could definitely be threatening, because we're so much. These things are millions of years more evolved than we are. So definitely, I definitely think we have to stay on guard. I really do.
And forgive me because I might have missed this. That Abba said that he's going to take care of all disease and everything.
To Israel first, not to us.
Israel, and then he said that's what it goes out over generations. Then that's right. That's what you said.
It'll be like a trickle down effect type thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
A couple of points here hitting us from the Facebook. Number one is, how do we know that he is not playing a grand prank, and maybe, yes, indeed, maybe he is an alien, and yes, indeed, he might have some power, but what would compel you to be, obviously, this is the question, obviously a very smart man, and Gary, very together, to believe him at his word?
Guys, I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
Because what would happen is if they tried anything, first of all, most people that come in and try to take over a planet, they just show up in the movies that we've seen. They show up. They don't give us all their information in a photo with 4 different levels to it. And let me just say this. If this guy, Abba, and I call him a guy, this being, if he did anything to like let's say he came and he said, okay, now everybody bow to me.
Yeah.
I don't even own a gun, but I'll be the first guy to go get a gun and say, you know what?
Yeah.
We got to stop these people. They
at
can't
that point,
come down here. Yeah. Even if they create us, they can't come down here and tell us what to do.
Because it almost makes it, like Greg said, it makes it sound like we're nothing more than a slave force for them.
I hope not, but you might be right. You guys could be right. But you know what though? But what's cool is if you and your listeners, if your fear makes you look at that photo and look at it the way and that you can see everything, then good. Then that fear is good.
Sure.
So please do that.
No, absolutely. It's very interesting, and I'm still looking at the photo, and of course your encounter with Abba, I'd call the father. Did it shake you though? Did it shake you as a person, even after all those years of looking at the photo? Was there a little piece of you that wanted God to be loving and caring and all creating?
No, because I wouldn't believe that either.
Okay.
No, there's no way. If someone hugs me and says, "Oh, I love you," I never met you before. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to buy that. Hey, I'm your best friend. I don't even know you. You show up in the water. Yes, I've seen you in a photo, but you show up in the water. I'm not your best friend.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you love me. You know what I mean?
Good point. Very good point.
Yes, you created me. I'm going to give you props for that, and that's awesome. And thank you for all this. But don't. People are going to be terrified, guys, when this thing shows up.
But Gary,
even when they see it in the photo, they're not going to believe it. So my whole thing is to help them so they don't start jumping out of windows or killing their kids.
Gary,
you know what I mean?
look.
And something else too, which will be interesting to see what happens is Israel has always been kind of the target for a lot of activity in terms of from other countries. Is this going to be a grand excuse to start launching stuff at them? And then what happens in terms of is Abba able to stop it, or does that just trigger something bigger?
Yeah, it would be a big mistake. Yeah, they believe me. These things are. Remember, they've done this on thousands and thousands of planets.
But
they've gone through this. Go ahead.
Gary, think about the burden that puts on you, being the only guy to know this. Really, seriously,
it's ridiculous.
The burden.
It's ridiculous. But it's kind of fun though. It's kind of cool. But yeah, and actually, guys, here's the other thing too for you and your listeners. I've had people who couldn't see it, but they love the story so much. What they did is they drove in from New Mexico and from Texas. I've had like 20, 30 people come to Florence. And in Florence, Arizona, they have a great fire department that has a public room. And I brought in 20 people, and I showed them, each one individually, how to see it. They saw it, they freaked out, and then we all went down to the river, and they all tried to make contact. I would invite any of your people that are in Arizona or are coming through Arizona, if they want to stop by, I'll meet with them. And I can give you an email that they can email me. I'll show them everything. We'll take them down to the river. So, guys, it's there. You got to see it. And hopefully you are afraid enough to want to see it. So,
I'd love to.
I'm right there.
One other quick question. Have you ever thought about whether or not you were predestined to uncover all this, or do you think just because of what you see in the picture that unraveled the events? But you're saying that you think that you've always been predestined for this.
I was predestined. I can tell you exactly what happened, guys. And I didn't tell you this before because I had to get all the story out before I told you.
Sure.
Okay, like I said, I never in my whole life have ever had a paranormal experience, but my mother did. 10 minutes before I was born, okay, she had passed out on the table. And what happened was because they gave you a lot of drugs back then.
Yeah.
And when she passed out, and she has told me this, she's 85 now. Or 84. She had told me this story ever since every birthday I had, she told me this story. She said, Gary, when I passed out, I ended up in a room. I was on the floor of this room, and there was a voice that came from like a tunnel, and it was a man's voice, and it terrified me. It said, where did you come from? Where did you really come from? And it said it 3 times. And I was so terrified. When I woke up, I was crying and I was shaking. And the doctor said, what's wrong? And she said to them, did any of you say, where did you come from? Where did you really come from? And they said no. So she thought she was hallucinating it. But for some reason, she thought it was so important for her to say that to me. When I had that dream that one night, and that voice said to me, go to the river, say, Father, 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 holy, 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 where did you come from? Where did you really come from? As soon as it said that, I said, oh, my God, I'm their boy.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, that was it. That was, as soon as I heard that, I said, oh, my God, I'm the boy. I'm the messenger boy.
Interesting. Really, a lot of things come to mind. One of the people in the Facebook chat says, well, I guess praying's out of the question.
No. As a matter of fact, I asked Abba about that. Praying's fine. The only thing was that he said that you don't have to be in a church or in a temple. If you're outside in nature, like how I was in the water, and he said, I hear those prayers a lot clearer than when people are in a closed building.
But what does he do about it? What does he actually answer people's prayers? I mean, does he actually work?
I didn't ask that.
I'd be like, what the hell? What do you care? You just want us for rocket fuel anyway.
Oh, stop. You can't dwell on that little thing. That's not
that little thing. That small, minute detail.
Fuel, but then you get to be put into another body on another planet.
Oh, yay me. Toiling about, building structures I could care less about.
Oh, that's you're helping mankind, but you're like, I don't want to toil. I want to get on the radio.
Oh yeah, I'd rather be on the radio.
Dude, that is too funny. Dude, no, you know what? You're absolutely right, and I'm not going to say it isn't. Yes, maybe it is forced labor, but if you guys look at the photo, you're going to get all the answers. And just know this too: in the photo, if you look at it on a laptop, and you just make the picture just regular size, and you lift it up so all the way back so the screen is lying on your tabletop, you will see that the only light left in the photo is on the pyramids. Okay, well, and above the pyramid, just above the pyramid, you'll see Abba. He's standing there, and you will see souls. It's right. You got to use a magnifying glass. You got to zoom in, zoom out. You will see that he is putting souls going into his left hand, going through his body, into his right hand, going out of his left hand, and they're going into apes. And the apes are actually transform into modern man.
Wow!
It's all in the photo. Yeah.
Man.
So the whole thing about evolution is true, but they got to a point when you're an ape, you couldn't go any further without a human soul. So that's what it shows in the photo.
So do you think that these were when Abba came here the first time that it was all apes and that he created, he did what needed to be done to help evolutionize people into human beings?
I'm sorry to cut you off, Greg. What it shows is it actually shows DNA from Abba on meteors, and the meteors are shooting out to different galaxies. It's all in the photo.
Yeah,
and you can see these meteors coming off his body going to different galaxies, and that's how they did it. So they knew. I think they came here way before we were apes, like way around what was it called, like prehistoric times. So yeah, I think they've been here.
Well, did you ask him? Did you ask him? Hey, did you create the world? I mean, are you responsible for the Big Bang or anything, or did you not get that deep with him on creation?
Questions. He actually said, Gary, you got to shut up. He actually said that, Gary, you got to shut up. Now, he said it in my head, and it sounded like, Gary, you got to shut up. Because I was so excited. I wanted a bunch of questions. I had a ton of questions.
Sure, I would too.
Has he given you any sort of idea if he'll ever come back to talk to you?
No, and I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. I have all the information I need. No. I'm hoping, guys, though, that I get invited to Jerusalem on July 25th or July 24th, and I get to hang out, and I want to get over to Egypt because I want to get up there. I want to get into the Great Pyramid because, guys, we don't have any time to talk, but because time's running out. But I can explain to your listeners, and it will take me an hour and a half, exactly how they can see now the Great Pyramid working. It's a machine that's still working. It is. It's on. It's on, and it's never turned off. So I can explain that, and I can show them how to see it on videos that were made by National Geographic.
Interesting. You need to get a website going, Gary, with all this information. Your very own website.
Well, yeah, you know.
You know what I mean? Or someone to get this out there to a further audience. I mean,
Well, and that's another question: is Abba happy that you're sharing this stuff so freely? Was that your purpose?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's a really great question. I don't know, but I made that my purpose. I figured I'm supposed to show everybody, because if they saw this thing and it just popped up one day, the whole world would just go nuts. The whole world would go nuts if he just showed up.
Yeah.
And so in my opinion, I was supposed to show everybody. And actually, this has been my 12th radio show, you guys. So I'm trying to get it out there, and everybody has it on their websites. And I'm inviting people to come see me, so I can show it to them personally if they want to. Hey, can I give my other email?
Yeah, absolutely. Do that. Give your contact info.
It's g.parker36gary@aol.com. That's G as in Gary. G.Parker Parker 36gary GARY@aol.com. If you guys have any of your listeners have questions, or you're going to come out to Florence, Arizona, we'll hook up. I'll show you everything, take you down the river, and hopefully it will open up your mind even more.
Oh, I'm sure you get flooded now with emails after this show. People are going to be like, what the hell you talking about, Gary? But I would imagine you've heard it all by now. People going, oh, my God, Gary, you're crazy. What kind of drugs are you on?
People say that, and I always respond as this. If you say that to me, I know you didn't really sit in the room, make it dark, and really look at the photo. Yeah, I know you didn't. So, and also, if you have to be able to zoom in real close. If you can't zoom in real close to the photo, you have to go to the NASA website. You have to download the photo from there, and you have to go on the right side. You scroll down where it says you have to actually click on full size. If you don't click on full size, you won't be able to zoom all the way in.
Well, you know what we've learned, and I don't mean to cut you off there, Greg, at all, but what we have learned is when we die, we become jet fuel. We have a guy that looks like somebody from Star Wars that created all of us, so that in his own image is kind of out the window. So, I mean, these things...
That's not true, Joe. The thing is in the photo, Jesus is in the photo. He's in the photo in 3 different places. Mm-hmm. And he looks human, but part of him looks just like Abba. Like he looks alien. So you can see his face, but his face is part. So when they say that thing, when you look on me, you look on the face of God, like they said, Jesus said. Yeah. Well, he does. He does, but they couldn't look at him like they didn't have a computer. They couldn't tilt it. You couldn't see the different dimensions. But yeah, he looks like Abba. He looks like an alien.
Oh boy! So we have 4 minutes left, and that just opens up a whole other line of questioning. Of are we saying then that Jesus was alien or part alien?
And they couldn't tilt his body well enough to get a good view at him.
Well, that's funny. On the photo, he's on the photo in one area. He's actually on the cross, but he's not nailed to the cross. He's tied to the cross. Right. So and Jesus, remember I told you that Abba had 50 or 60 faces? Well, Abba's made up of thousands and thousands of human souls and people. And what happens is Jesus in the photo, he actually has at least 15 to 20 souls. And part of them, and a lot of them are alien. I mean, extremely alien. So yes, that whole walking on water and feeding people and healing people, absolutely. The guy wasn't human, man. There's no way.
No, he was a son of God.
Well, no, he wasn't a God. But he was actually, I asked Abba that. I asked Abba, I said, is Jesus your son? He said, yes. I said, is he a God? He said, no. He said, but he is my son. So
he was the reject we sent down here, so to get out of my way while I was busy.
No, he was the next step, because what happened, guys? He didn't die. He had 2 boys. They had a bunch of kids, but he transferred his DNA, and those souls went into his kids.
Wow, so, Gary, man, you are just ripping apart Christianity.
I apologize.
Not meaning to, obviously. I mean, you're not, being mean about it, but you were definitely ripping apart Christianity right now.
You're challenging people's beliefs, which is interesting.
We would love to have you back on the show. We absolutely have you back on, and we'll pick up right where we're leaving off. But we got to get out of here. End of the show. Okay. Can't believe it flew by that quick. But take care of each other. I know I am just a fluster over here. But guys, take care of each other, love each
I had a
other.
great time. It's all, and tell your people it's all in the photo.
Yeah,
it's
go to NASA website, take a peek at the photo, tilt it, do what you need to do, and maybe you too will see exactly what Gary saw to compel him to go on this journey. Until next time, guys, tilt some photos.